Hey everybody, welcome to Jets Talk Now. I'm Paul Fiore. Please click like and subscribe. Thanks for joining me as day 2 of Jets camp is over. It is Thursday night. Wanted to pop on and chat with everyone, talk a little bit about the first couple of days of camp. It's great that football's back. I'm excited. New season, new background. Yeah, that's kind of funky, but whatever. My camera is still fighting the background and not having an actual green screen, whatever. But I thought it was kind of fun and different and cool. So that's my background for now. And we'll try to work it out with the camera at some point. Anyway, today the Jets practiced their second day in a row. Glenn was at the podium. We heard from him. We've heard from Muji yesterday. We heard from Garrett, Minka, Gino. So a number of guys we've heard from at the podium. And, it's hard to take much away from the first 2 days of practice with no pads, and it's a ramp up. But, you still should try to look for positives without overreacting. And so I try to do that. And, if I'm negative on somebody, then I'll be the first to admit if I don't think I like somebody and they start out poorly, I'm going to jump all over it like I did yesterday with Arian Smith. And, I got some grief from some people online, but the reality is I think he's not a good football player. I think he's a 4th-round pick that was overdrafted, who's going to be on the roster because he contributes a bit on special teams. He's a wide receiver 6. I don't think much of him. And I'm not going to make this about Arian Smith. But let's start off before we get to David Bailey Day, which was certainly today. Let's talk a little bit about Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn, is clearly making a concerted effort to change the way he's perceived in the media this year. And I think that's smart. It started in the offseason. It's continued here at the beginning of camp, where he is making a concerted effort to not be a butthole, as put in his words. But the truth is, last year was unnecessary distractions with the media and Aaron Glenn. And it had nothing to do with the play on the field as much as that was an abomination. Early on last year, he was combative. He was defensive. It felt like it was a game of one-upmanship with, various members of the media. And it just wasn't a good look. And it was unnecessary distraction for a first-year rookie head coach. And I don't know if this is a result of him talking to people in his inner circle that have said to him, hey, Aaron, maybe we tone it down. Or people he trusts that he's good, close friends with. But you can see this year, he's amenable. He's self-deprecating a bit, self-reflective. And it's just great because, you don't need that part of it. It's already a hard job. You don't need it to be harder by being in silly fights with the media. And look, the media's job is to hold him accountable. That's what they do. And so they're going to ask difficult questions. So far it's a good start. There's going to be times where they're going to ask him difficult things because they're not going to play well or something's going to happen. And he's got to learn how to handle that. He's got to grow up and be mature as a head coach. When I say grow up, he's not that he's got to grow up as a man, grow up as a head coach. He was a rookie head coach last year. So this is an opportunity for him to kind of show maturity in the position. And I think he needs that with him essentially being on the hot seat going into year 2. Now, on top of that, I feel like the other positive for me was at the podium, Gino yesterday, or report day. Gino came, I don't remember if it was yet. I think it was yesterday. Gino comes out, not required to be there. And before one question's asked, he was prepared to take ownership and accountability for some of the unnecessary distractions that occurred this offseason. Now, the domestic thing, you can't put that all on Gino. Obviously, that's it's unfortunate, and the good news is nothing came of it, right? So that's the real positive here. The two traffic things, look, they're non-issues in any regular world. It's amplified because he's the quarterback of the New York Jets. He's coming back from a bad situation when he left the Jets. He left the Jets in kind of a disgrace. So the media and anyone in, tabloid gossip stuff, they're going to jump on that. So I appreciated Gino coming out really right away and saying, look, we had good OTAs and practices and mini camp. I don't want to be a distraction. And I spoke to the team leaders about it. I spoke to Muji and Glenn about it, and we're moving forward. Great. That is exactly what you want from your 35, soon to be 36-year-old veteran quarterback who's going to be counted on to be a leader on the team. So I'm very happy that Gino did that day one. Now, observations on the team. We learned a bit of things from injuries. Pons tweaked a calf. Doesn't sound like a big deal. I'm not going to overreact to that. Tavondre Sweat, I should say, got a hamstring issue. Not that that's a overly big deal, but when you're, a big part of the defense and your reputational issues are work ethic, your motor, and your ability to stay on the field are in question, it's not a great look that your 370 plus pound defensive run stuffer has issues day one. Now, hopefully it's only a 1 week thing. He gets on the field and he's ready for week one, because you don't need lingering lower body issues on a man of that size. And again, someone who's integral to the success of their run defense. So I wasn't thrilled about that. Positive on the injury front, Sadeeq, he's out there. It seems like he's got zero limitations. Sounds like he was super active today, and according to reports, being moved all around the field, which is smart. Glenn was effusive in his praise of him, and I get it. 250-pound big dude who runs a 4.3 40 is a matchup nightmare. And so the Jets need to find ways to utilize his unique skill set to make him highly effective in that passing game or screen game. There's so many ways you can move him around on the field, not just play traditional tight end. So we'll see. David Bailey was the big story today. Sounds like by all accounts, he would have had, and again, it's shorts, so I get it, but he was a menace in the backfield. It sounds like he would have had 3 sacks if you were counting actual sacks. Constant pressure, beating Olu and Membu consistently. And even though it's shorts, if it was the other way around and he had 2 days of complete anonymity at, on the field, I guarantee you as a fan base, there would be concern. He's a second overall pick in the draft. You want this guy to flash a little bit. And the things that did flash are the things that you've heard about with him. He's got a high motor. He's got a great first step. And it looks like both of those things were on full display. Awesome. I hope David Bailey is a game wrecker. I know Frankie V believes he is. But I am very, very happy by what we were, being told from the media reports, that he was just kind of all over the place. And I don't know if it was Tittman. I think it was Tittman today who was saying, look, this guy's a pain in the ass. Great. Perfect. We need that. We need a pain in the ass. I want a guy who's not a specialty player, who's just out there on obvious passing situations to get to the quarterback. I want a guy who's a smart football player. He's on the field 60% of the snaps. It sounds like he's, doing all the right things. So David Bailey day today, people were really pumped up about it online, which is awesome. What else? The pass catchers. So it sounds like A.D. Mitchell has been off to a nice start. He has some rapport early with Gino, which is very important. You want A.D. Mitchell to be your wide receiver too. it would be enormously valuable to this offense to have someone who is a reliable wide receiver 2 opposite Garrett with the skill set to be able to go deep. He's got speed. He's a good route runner. He's got to hold on to the ball. And he's got to be consistent. But if you get that out of A.D. Mitchell, it makes Omar Cooper Jr. that much better and effective being wide receiver 3 playing out of the slot. What you don't want is A.D. Mitchell to be a bust, and now you're forced to have to move Cooper into that wide receiver 2 when he's a rookie who's learning the league. I get it, he's a first-round draft pick. I think that he's going to be a very good football player, but I'd much prefer an A.D. Mitchell to be wide receiver 2 for this season. And if Cooper overtakes him before the end of the season, that's a natural progression. Great. That makes sense. That's awesome. But A.D. Mitchell's looked good in the first couple of days. Good rapport with Gino. Sounds like Garrett's looked like he's had some good rapport with Gino, including a nice back shoulder catch today, based on reporting. And then Cade Klubnik flashed. Again, not going to overreact to a 2 days of practice in shorts analysis on the kid, but it's easy to root for Cade Klubnik. He was a highly touted prospect before last season. He went through a season of hell, was playing hurt. The team stunk. He had a bad year, and his draft stock fell dramatically, right? So it's easy to root for that. It's a Cinderella story. The Jets media team has been leaning into it. What are we rooting for? We're rooting for him to become the QB2. And if you listen to Glenn, who was praising him today, he's like, did you see all those throws he was making? If you listen to Muji, who was at the podium, surprisingly at the podium, and he was asked about QB2, he brought up Cade. It feels like the Jets, who have not brought a veteran in, are doing everything in their power to let him win the job. And by the way, I actually think that's the right move. Like, I know a lot of people are uncomfortable with this, and they're saying the Jets should have gotten themselves a veteran backup. I disagree. The Jets are not supposed to be a playoff team. The Jets are a team that needs to improve and let their young guys show that they can develop and that Glenn can coach. This is truly a rebuild in year 2, where you go hopefully from a 3-win football team to maybe a 7-win football team. I think it's a 6 or 7-win football team. Some of that will depend on Gino, and a lot of that will depend on Glenn. But I think giving the kid an opportunity to win QB2 is the right strategic move, because by the end of the season, you need to learn if Cade can be QB2 long term. And so I truly believe he's going to play at some point this year. I think he'll play. So there's, I was thinking about this. I think there's a scenario where he plays a lot earlier than other people may think. Tiki Barber actually alluded to this in his show. I saw the clip, watched it in its entirety, where he was talking about the idea of meritocracy in every position should be a battle to become the starter. The best players should play. And he was really alluding to, he believed Gino does not warrant being gifted the QB1. Now, in a vacuum, I think what he was saying was fair. Gino was terrible last year, but his team was terrible around him. In 2024, Gino was probably the 22nd, 22 to 24 QB in the league. I know he threw for 4,300 yards. He also threw for 15 interceptions. He also took 50 sacks. His QBR had him ranked in the 20s. And it was a fall off from where he was in 2023. So I'm not just going to look at passing yards. It's like people telling me, it's like the hypocrisy in that argument is, if you look at Aaron Rodgers in 2024 and you look at his passing touchdowns and his yards passed and his interception numbers, and you ignore other things, you could say, well, Aaron Rodgers was really, really good. And those same people like, no, he sucked. So I don't think you can have it both ways. I think Gino was average-ish in 2024, and in 2025 he stunk. What do I think Gino is going to be this year? probably somewhere in between. He's going to be 36 years old during the season. You typically don't turn the clock back as a quarterback. I think his mobility is still okay, but not what it was. He took 50 sacks in 2024. I thought he looked a bit gun shy in 2025. You worry about those things as these guys get older. Does he rush and make mistakes, throw into double coverage, and turn the ball over a bunch? I don't know. Trust what he sees, makes the right play. We'll see. But I think there's no world where Gino's not QB1 to start the season for at least the first 4 games. And I think the reason of that, the reality of that is it's not fair to a guy like Cade Klubnik, who was drafted in the 4th round overall, coming off of a terrible season, who's basically rehabilitating his mental state as a football player. When you are as successful as Cade Klubnik was in his life, which has been, he has won all kinds of awards. He has been a consistent winner his entire life. And have the season you have last year, you question everything. You just do. Even if outwardly he comes across as confident, composed, and everything else, you got to rebuild that kid. And so the Jets would be wise to give him a ton of snaps, a ton of looks in preseason, let him try to win the job as QB2, and let him sit and learn. And hope that Gino, at least through week 12, gives you competent quarterback play, and that the Jets are somewhere around 5-7 at the bye, and then you can make the decision: do we still want to put Gino out there? Do we want to see what Cade looks like? That's kind of a perfect scenario. The dream scenario is that Gino turns the clock back to 2023. The Jets are in contention all year long, and Cade doesn't see a game until maybe week 18. If they're out of it, they've been eliminated, and now you're going to start the rookie. That would be the dream scenario, and I'm not counting on that. The in-between scenario is the Jets are a bad football team, but they flash. They're competitive in football games. Gino is good enough. You get to the bye at like a 5-7. You're still a little bit alive, but you lose one more game and you're pretty much done. And then you decide, all right, let's give Cade the last 3 to 5 games and see what he's got. Can he become QB2? Does he flash? Let's give it him. He's had plenty of time to prepare. I do view a scenario that is not crazy, even if you guys may think I am, where Cade plays much earlier than that, with nothing to do with an injury. Okay? Hear me out. Week 1, the Jets go and they take on our old friend Robert Saleh. And I don't know why this is such a big deal that Saleh told a Jet fan, we're going to kick your ass. Like, okay, he's probably saying it. Think about the scenario. You're at Fan Fest or Fanatics Fest. Guy with a Jets hat comes up to you, he's talking to you, and he's like making fun. Hey, blah, blah. And he's like, we'll see you week 1. Like, yeah, we'll kick your ass. Like, I mean, I don't know why that's a big deal. And I'm not a solid defender in any way. I just think it's kind of overblown and silly. But anyway, week 1 on the road, Tennessee, highly emotional game for Tennessee. They're going to be, dealing with Chris Johnson and inducting him at halftime. Saleh's going to want to make a statement. By all accounts, roster versus roster, the Jets have a legitimate shot to win week 1. And hopefully they do. Because what you don't want to have happen, let's say you lose week 1. Now your home opener is week 2 against Green Bay. Certainly without Micah, I get that. But Green Bay is still a better roster. Green Bay is still a team that would be expected to be the favorite in that game. Green Bay's fan base will travel well. And you are now faced at 0-1 with your back, literally week 2, you're back against the wall. Because if you fall to 0-2 and lose that football game, you now go on the road to Detroit and Chicago, where you were easily a heavy underdog in both of those games. And if Gino looks bad early, like let's say you do, God forbid, you lose those first 2 games. Now you go on the road and you lose both of those. Now you're 0-4. And you're 0-4 because your offense can't move the football because Gino's making bad decisions, throwing picks. He looks washed, let's say. Do you think that Aaron Glenn is going to sit there and just let it just blow up, he's still fighting for his job. He still wants the opportunity to continue to coach this football team in 2027. So if you're 0-4 and your back is against the wall and Glenn's back will be against the wall and the fan base will be out of control at 0-4, and your next game is home against Cleveland, I guarantee you, and this is my view, if Gino doesn't show up in that game, get ready for Klubnik. That's what I think would happen. That would be the worst case scenario because he's going to throw the Hail Mary like Dable threw and like numerous other head coaches have thrown over the years. When your job's on the line, your back's against the ropes, you're going to throw the Hail Mary. And the Hail Mary at that point is, hey, can Cade Klubnik become Brock Purdy? Can he become Dak Prescott? Can he become any one of those guys who were drafted later who it turns out Cade was as good as he was supposed to be and then just had a really bad final season in college. And then Glenn, even if they go 6-11, let's say, right? Let's say Cade comes in, the Jets are 0-4, he plays 0-5, he comes in and they finish the season 6-11. So Cade goes 6-6 in the final 12. You don't think Glenn has an argument at that point to say, look, Gino was washed. The team rebounded from 0-5. We finished 6-11, not what we wanted, but lots of positive signs. Cade looked really good. The younger guys played well. I am getting us there. 100% that's his argument in that scenario. Do I think it's a realistic argument? No, because I think if you have to turn to Cade Klubnik after week 4 or 5, the odds of the Jets winning 6 games at that point are very, very minimal. But it doesn't mean that's not what he's going to be thinking as the head coach at that point. So while I don't expect it to happen or want it to happen, it is not a 0% chance that Cade Klubnik is playing by the second quarter of football games. If you break the season into 4 quarters, by the second quarter of the season, getting out there and playing. I don't want to see it happen, but it could. What you want to see happen right now is Cade gets a ton of reps in the preseason. He flashes. He looks competent. He looks like someone who could become a true QB2, and you get excited about what that means for the long term. Because you know what? Good QB2s are hard to find. And if he turns out to be a good QB2 as a 4th-round draft pick, that's a home run for Muji. Okay? So last thing I would touch on before we shut it down for the night, the kickers. So Sanders and York, sounds like they both did pretty well. I think York missed 1. Sanders hit all of his from what I saw in the reporting. At the end of the day, I'm not sure we have our kicker on the roster right now. We didn't have it with Folk, came on late, if I remember correctly. So you never know. But it'd be nice that these guys battle throughout camp and actually are both good and we have to make a difficult decision. That would be the ideal. I'm not a big believer in Cade York. I think that he's likely the odd man out in this battle long term. I don't trust his accuracy, but we'll see. But yeah, that's where we are after day 2, David Bailey Day. He was great today. And hopefully that continues throughout camp. I'm looking forward to, I think next week, Glenn said starting Monday, they'll be in pads. You'll start getting a better feel for this team. The defense will be ahead of the offense now, but hopefully as camp progresses, those days are a little bit more balanced and you see, the defense, get beat by, Gino and team. But we've got a long way to go. There'll be a lot of overreactions to various things that happen. Gino will have a bad day and throw a couple of picks and people will be ready to throw him out with the garbage. Cade will have a day where, he looks amazing and everybody's going to want him to start. And then there'll be days where Cade looks awful and he'll be the next coming of Brady Cook. So that's what camp is. Including, by the way, even preseason games. I mean, how many times have we watched the Jets in preseason games? We're like, ooh, this could be a good year. And then it doesn't work out. Why? Because preseason football is not real football. Teams aren't scheming up the game plan. They're not putting out anything other than vanilla defenses. But that doesn't mean that you don't have valuable reps where you're in game action and you have the opportunity to, learn. So we'll see. I'm excited about it. I look forward to watching kind of what's going to happen here in the next, few weeks. Hopefully Glenn keeps on this trajectory as the head coach. It makes me semi-optimistic that learning your lesson from the simplest task of how you handle the media could mean, hopefully, that translates as a head coach as well. Frank Reich being the OC should help because he's got that experience next to him. But time will tell. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you have a great weekend. I'll probably jump back on early next week. My goal during camp is to record twice a week. And then obviously once we get to preseason games and the regular season, then that should be probably 3 times a week. We'll do game reactions. We'll talk about game, after they happen. And thankfully this year, every game is on Sunday at 1. So game reactions will be easy to do. And, we'll just take it as it comes. But I appreciate all the support. My goal, we're at 2,200 subscribers. So please subscribe. I'd love to get to 2,500 before the season begins. And keep growing the channel. So hope you guys have a great one, and I'll talk with you all soon.